Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of times when I just RMRF'd my system by mistake, but every time I came back stronger. So I had like three times of that iteration, of those iterations. But it's a
You
lot of.
RMRF your system
Wait,
three times?
Yeah, hold on a
Nagli,
second.
you're doing
That's
something
not like.
wrong.
Listen, never in my life have I done that, so I need a little more context.
Yo, Nagli, welcome to the pod, man.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Yo, so, okay, I want to start out this episode. We've got a bunch of questions for you, and I'm hoping we can get to the recon secret sauce in this episode, see if we can get him to spill the beans. But I wanted to start with, a while back, I thought I had met Nagli for the first time, or the first talk to Nagli at a live hacking event. But when we started chatting, Nagli sent me a message, or told me that he had sent me a message back in, what was it? Let's pull up the DM here. It was January of 2021, which actually is not that long ago when you think about it. Saying like, hey, can you look at my recon flow? Can you like validate? And then he just drops this like massive Xmind like mind
Full
map
source code.
of like pretty much the source. I mean, it literally has all of the source code, like curl and like all the all the commands that you're running. And I'm looking through here and I'm like, wow, this guy is actually. Let me see what I said. I said, dude, that looks freaking sick. Nice work, brother. So, I mean, at this time, Nagli, had you done much hacking at this point, or were you just like kind of like building out your recon framework?
Yeah, so I didn't do much recon at the time. I just did some DoD, get some reputation
Sure.
up on my HackerOne account, get some private invites. I think I got like only $1,000 on HackerOne when I sent you this
gosh.
one. Yeah, 2 years and like 4 months ago. And I just
Dude.
looked to validate some of my stuff with, the top hackers at the time and just
Yeah.
shoot you it all because I don't want my DM to get lost in your a lot of unread DMs. So here is my code.
Yeah, no,
You could look at
and
it.
it looked amazing. And I have to say, even at the time, I can tell from the way that I responded to you. Like, I was like, oh, dang, because we get, as the top hackers, I'm sure you know this now, Nagli, being one of the top hackers yourself. But, we get a lot of DMs that says like, hey, can you help me with this? Can you like validate my this and that and the other thing? And a lot of time it's like really like basic stuff, and you're like, oh, okay. But then he drops this whole like mind map with like all of the source code, all of the bash that he's running, and I'm like, dang, this guy's pretty legit. And then we had a conversation, following that of like, hey, you might want to architect it like this, Actually, so the advice that I gave you is, hey, I don't really see like a message broker in here. And so, I mean, did you ever implement a message broker, or are you doing some other way to like connect all the parts to your system?
Yeah, not really. I mean, there are two types of automation hackers. Either you build the whole DevOps infrastructure with message broker and containers and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I went to the more, just bash scripts, while loops, cron jobs,
Okay.
Axiom, and, to the easy route, we could say.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like, I think we talked about it a little bit at the live hacking events, but that's what a lot of the top hackers do. You'd imagine that these people have like everything written in Rust, like distributed across all the things, but when you really talk to people, it's like, dang, there's a lot of like bash going on here and like really scrappy systems built up.
Yeah.
So I just thinking back on this, I'm so glad that I responded to this message and we got to have that early interaction, because look at him now. He is okay. Hold on, I've prepped this, Nagli. Hold on. He is the newest $1 million hacker.
Whoa.
Wow.
You hear the cheering? You can hear
Yeah,
the
yeah,
cheering.
we can hear it.
Okay, nice. So, congrats on that, man. And actually, so I mean, you said you had made maybe $1,000 on HackerOne at this point. This is January of 2021. So you went from having made $1,000 in January of 2021 to being the latest $1 million hacker. Is that right?
Yeah, I barely made any money on 2021. So only in
Wow.
2022, only last year it was like since Log4j, it just went off.
Okay, so Log4j was a big pivot point for you, or what?
Yeah, I mean, getting some log4j, 2 hours after it was published on Twitter, just got my nuclei scripts running, and it got a lot of like 10k bounties and stuff like that from programs. It was a good leap forward.
Nice, man. Wow, that's cool. So, man, I feel like Log4j was not that long ago. So you've really, you really scaled up quick. So, okay, my goal for this session is to, try to get some of the secret sauce out of Nagli. Try to see how much of his, of his techniques I can pull out. So you said Log4j was one of the big things. What other kind of vulnerabilities are you poking around for, Nagli?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of subdomain takeovers, back in the time, name server takeovers, Route 53, GCP, all those kind of stuff. Back at the time, I used to get a lot of these. Now it's like 3 to 5, very like 1K, 2K a month each for me.
Sure.
But just generic vulnerabilities, nothing really spicy at the moment. I used to, in Vegas last year, I tried to build my EC2 automation, but it's so much hard work. I know the top hackers are doing it, but I'm not really in that game because it's so hard to maintain. You need thousands of accounts, and there's a lot of money in it. I know a lot of the top hackers are doing it, but I'm just, I give up on that. I don't want to hassle.
So when you say EC2, you're talking about EC2 IP takeovers, right?
Yeah, so basically you have a rotation script on your account. You try to claim IPs, and then you check your recon data, and you see if any DNS name points to that selected IP, and if you get a match, then you claim the takeover.
You've got your recon data, and then you've got that all built out, and then you're generating EC2 instances or EC2 IPs, checking the IP and seeing if like any of these DNS records that were out there were pointing to that IP, and that IP is just getting reused and passed on to a different customer, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Wow. Yeah, that sounds like a lot. And I know I actually dabbled in that a little bit, and I had for a little while. I had it, generating a couple grand a month off of findings. But I think not too long ago, AWS sort of implemented some sort of rate limiting surrounding that, right?
Yeah, they're trying to ban your accounts mostly, and then you need new credit cards, new phone numbers. I mean, it's a whole operation.
Oh my gosh.
Just too much time. I mean, I gave up on it.
That's definitely a lot more. That's involved in going into that for sure.
Yeah.
EC2 IP. Okay, so you've got that. So here's one of the problems that I ran into, and I think Nagli and Joel, you probably know this, but for the audience, I'll talk a little bit about this. So at the beginning of my bug bounty career, I was kind of like I was doing mostly just. Well, I guess at the very beginning, I started off building reconnaissance-based stuff, and I was like, oh, man, this is really hard, And then I started doing just, like, hands on the keyboards hacking and like, diving deep into the application, finding some stuff. And then I was like, okay, I feel like I've got a little bit of a better grip on this now. Let's go full automation. So one of the things – so I built out this whole system. I probably put thousands of hours into building this system, and it worked great for a couple years. But one of the biggest problems that I ran into was getting, and it's especially important for these things like NS takeovers and for like anything related to subdomain takeovers, is getting a clear picture of the DNS configuration of an organization or an asset in practically real time, right? Because like as soon as anything changes, you need to be the one to know, oh, hey, this just went from an X domain to serve fail right now, and I need to pull that asset. So, I mean, how are you trying to get, what kind of tools are you using to get that clear, up-to-date picture of the DNS configuration of a, set of assets?
I just use the normal open source tools. I modify them a little bit, maybe for some input output for easier, so it will be more convenient for me, but I didn't develop any, innovative Rust kind of thing because I didn't find it right. I didn't need it. I didn't feel like I need it. And I used a lot of benchmarking with Mochal and doxing. I mean, it was just fun to compete with them. We have like a small channel of us, just bashing each other, just comparing our stats. Yeah. And it's very nice to have this kind of competition, and do this stuff. But doxing is on another level.
That, Nagli. I know firsthand that you thrive off of that. So that's cool. Yeah, I think having, Joel and I were kind of talking about this last week, having hacker chats, sharing with other hackers and talking to other hackers, like, a lot of people would say, hey man, you need to keep your secret sauce secret and that sort of thing. But like, you'd be surprised about how much better of a hacker you become when you start sharing and starting having conversations with other hackers.
Yeah, I believe that 80% of the bugs, of the, the good bugs that you submit to programs, it's either automation or collaboration. I mean, with collaboration, you get a lot of more insights, better findings. I think that's like the bigger part of the picture when you see quality bugs in programs.
Yeah. So I guess this was another route that I wanted to go down. So I know just in the history of Nagli becoming, what he is today, that there was a big pivot point was you starting this thing called Bug Bounty Hunters Guild. And could you tell me a little bit about that and like how that helped you improve as a hacker?
Yeah, so I spoke around May or June of 2021. I started getting a little, 10K months with my automation, some subdomain takeovers. And then I spoke a lot with Doxing and Mochal on different Discord chats, just private chats that I would copy paste the text to each other, and then why won't we just, have a Slack group and just chat with each other and, drop some stuff, some Twitter threads, some interesting things. So I just started this Bug Bounty Hunters Guild. It was like 5 of us maybe, or 6, and then just invited more people that we saw over the leaderboards, over Twitter, and just, to speak in a more controlled channel. And it was great success, not only for me, but for other hackers. They made connections with each other. A lot of collaborations have gone from that point. So it was very good for a while. Now, as for every Slack channel, it's decreasing in the engagement over time. Some other mini groups are created, but it was very good for a year. And now it's mostly for DMs.
Yeah, and I feel like, at some point it's hard to keep engagement in those sort of communities. But I think it's cool that as you as probably the fastest 0 to 1 million hacker that I've ever seen, I think it's really cool that a part of that was building a community at the same time, right? That building a community is like its own, full-time job, but, you built a community and you were, kind of fostering growth in other hackers and like communicating with other hackers and trading techniques and stuff like that with other hackers while you were building out your automation framework and getting to that magical number of 10K a month on automated stuff. So I think that's,
and they had a full-time job as well.
Yeah. Well, and of course, right on top of that, you actually have a full-time job, which you just recently quit, right?
7 months ago, I think now.
Has it already been 7 months since you pulled the plug on that?
Time flies.
Oh my gosh, man! So you quit that, and I guess you started Shockwave then, yeah? So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's my own startup. I mean, I took my services into a product because it's more scalable, and I see a lot more value that I can bring to companies, insights, when I also connect to their internal DNS stuff and the cloud security posture tools. Then the biggest task is to find all the subdomains. So if I can collect it also from the inside, I can run my automation continuous monitoring more easily. The point is for companies to have this, automated hacker that hacks them every time, and also to have a platform for them to collaborate, like to do challenges, to invite researchers. So instead of giving you DNS zone file, or text files with all the records, let's just invite you to their ASM. You will see all the assets. You can collaborate and chat with others, leave notes, and then you could pull, good findings. And that's like the goal of the product, collaboration and the automation for companies.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, that's kind of what you were talking about last week, Joel, with the DNS records, giving the DNS host, zone files. Yeah, there we go. I couldn't get it out. Giving the zone files to hackers to, try to eliminate that security by obscurity thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you see too many companies do it where they just hide stuff behind like a weird complex domain or like a bunch of subdomains that nobody can find. And
yeah, it gets tricky for sure. And so, I mean, and on top of that, the platform is designed around, I mean, you're giving them additional recon data too, like ports and server fingerprinting and that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, everything that I would do with my automation scripts is just hitting a GUI, I mean, getting out of the command line, and also getting the additional insight that I can give them.
Nice. That's very cool, man. And I remember, we were at a live hacking event. I think it was Vegas, and you showed me it was Barcelona. And you showed me the progress that your developer was making on the front end of the GUI, and that thing is pretty, man. So talk to me a little bit about like how did you go about putting a GUI on this thing, and like, talk to me about that.
Yeah, it's very hard. I mean, it's either you develop everything from scratch, and then you need a lot of developers, but a single developer in Israel, it's like $150,000-$200,000 a year. And I won't just pour all my money into it before validation and stuff like that. So I took a developer from Upwork, and I took a bootstrap template, a template I can start from, and then
Sure.
I paid some money for a designer to make it look nicer and more with the brand identity, and then just developing it like, I mean, I have a vision of attack surface. I've seen a lot of products. I know what we as bug bounty hunters what we want to look, what we want to see. So just going from that point slowly but surely.
Nice, man. That's really cool. So one of the things that kind of stood out to me there was that you said that you hired a designer. And so I know you have a coder, but you also had a designer. Is that correct, or is this a same person?
Yeah, so on Upwork, like I hired a designer for a small gig, and then I hired another one to do some LinkedIn post templates, and everything that I needed another person. Let's just grab someone, pay him for a short stint for a project, and then move on. To grind it like not stopping.
Yeah, dude, I love that. I love the use of delegation, because like that is one of the things that I struggle with the most, is like handing off things that I am not good at to people that are good at them, and then just paying the money. It's such a good efficiency piece. So yeah, great to hear that, and I also love that that you did hire an individual designer aside from your coder, and gave your coder for the front end some template, some design, to some docs to work with, because the coders aren't always necessarily the best designers, and vice versa, right? So when I tried to bootstrap my own, bootstrap. See, that's a nice little pun there. When I tried to bootstrap my own front end, my own GUI for my thing, it was total crap, because I mean I can write front end code, but I can't design front end code, and so that was really smart to go about it that way, for sure.
Have you ever noticed like any struggles between getting the designers and the coders to work together, like, since they're just sort of both random people?
So I always keep my developer. I create more tickets for him in GitHub, and I really detail for him very thoroughly. He doesn't need to speak with me. I give him an assignment, and after 2 weeks he just speaks with me. I mean, I don't need to talk with him daily, about stuff. But I also had some bad experiences with another developer. I tried to move everything to React from Bootstrap, which sounds like a good idea. It can protect from XSSs. It will be more smooth, the website and stuff like that. But it didn't make sense, because I developed in 2 different lifespans. He developed a front end for features that we didn't develop yet, and then so it didn't make sense. So I lost $10,000 for it. But yeah, never mind. Yeah. We'll make it up.
I love that. I love that entrepreneurial spirit. I feel like I would get so caught up on that, why did I make this terrible move, or how do I still stick to my guts on going to React even when it's not working. So I think that's a really good indicator of someone who's going to be successful in the entrepreneurial industry, is that ability to quickly adapt, not trip over the failures, not trip over the missteps, and continue rolling. And I'm sure that's the same thing that kind of got you into the space where you're at with recon too, is start going down a path, be like, that's not going to be the right approach, and then adapt and change. So that's really good to see.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back to the doc here. Joel, you got any questions you want to shoot him, or should I just go off rapid fire?
Yeah. So I mean, you talked a little bit about your recon and doing bug bounty and stuff, but what was your path before bug bounty? What led you to do bug bounty in the first place and be interested in security and all that?
Yeah, so I started studying in Open University, computer science, because I always like computer science, and I was in the army, and the final year of my officers, in my military service, I was in a cybersecurity department. And then I was exposed to a lot of cybersecurity information, not really hands-on, more to make some slides about attacks and stuff like that, But I got into the world of knowing attacks and stuff like that. And then I took a course on Stanford. It's called Web Security, CS253. It's kind of advanced course about JavaScript, cookies, XSS, and so on. But it was really good for me, one practical course just to learn about some attacks. It has some labs. So it's very high. I mean, if I will watch it again today, I will probably learn new stuff again. But this was a nice course for me to start with. And then, bug bounty, it's good because you don't need anything from the company. You just need to open Burp and, start hacking. So that's what got me into investing in that kind of field and not like going to internal pen test, network pen testing, which is, it requires you to have some sort of relationship with a company beforehand.
Yeah. No, that's
Interesting.
Yeah. Go ahead, Joel.
Well, and then like, what made you want to eventually shift away from that? Like what you just talked about, like it's bug bounty is nice because you don't have to have a relationship with the company, but now, as you've gone through bug bounty, now you actually are like creating relationships with companies. You're doing internal pen tests, that type of stuff. So what drew you away from bug bounty and back towards that other stuff?
Yeah, because I mean, bug bounty, you don't really know how you will do next month. So I mean, you can predict if you will find bugs. And over the course of months, I see that I find less bugs. I mean, it's of course many more people are trying to do what I do, and they are succeeding in it. So I see that I get less bugs from my automation, and that's why I decided also to build my product. And I know what I could get from companies with a relationship that will make them actually more secure. I mean, they're using products like mine. I mean, they're using external attack surface management probably, all the Fortune 100 companies that we're hacking, but still the focus there, it's not really the focus that we find the bugs with and probably malicious actors, because they are more focused on outdated softwares, on NIST CVEs, on all of the stuff which are not really exploitable, and that's the big difference between us and them. So I decided to maybe try to go over that route as well. But also, of course, bug bounties, I'm still doing it and grinding what's there.
Gotcha. So how much time would you say you're spending doing like manual, like finding new bugs, like prodding at a specific product versus just sort of running it through your whole automation suite that already exists and seeing what it returns?
This is the question, man. I love this. Yeah.
Yeah. I barely do any manual hacking, and I hate it because I can't focus. I can't find a program to focus it, and it's so disturbing. I mean, in live hacking events, I will always find a bug somehow. I don't know why, because there is a competition, there is a, there is the grind, there is the environment. But actually doing manual hacking these days, I barely manage to do it because I can't focus on the program. I mean, if I will find a good program, I will manage to authenticate to it, I will do it, but I can't really force myself to do it.
That's so interesting because like that, I've mostly interacted with you in the live hack, and we've done a lot of live hacking events together. So, it's not an insubstantial amount of interaction, but I've mostly interacted with you in a live hacking event front, and that was one of the things I was going to ask you about. Was like, I feel from my perspective, I see you in live hacking events, right? Which is when you're like in the zone, you're like locked in, you can really focus because of the competition. And I noticed that, you're one of the rare exceptions of people that do both recon, hardcore recon, and also hardcore hacking. Like he is in the authenticated app, finding the CSRFs and stuff like that where you have to be authenticated to find it, as well as also doing this mass scanning and like, look at this weird asset I found, in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. And so that's really interesting to hear you say that, your normal approach is actually mostly just the recon, and you just kind of pull that out of nowhere for the live hacking events.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I wished I could find some programs, to just go all in on them for a year and make like 100, 200,000. Yeah. I know it's possible, probably if I would focus, maybe if I would have a friendly competition with someone. But it's hard. I mean, if anyone manages to figure how to incentivize, like to make us, force us, collaborate on a program, it could be very good to hear.
Yeah. I think
that's something I've been trying to figure out forever. I have the same problem where it's like live hacking event, something about like timing and pressure and just opportunity makes it so ripe for finding good new bugs. Yeah. And then even if you were like to come back a month later and try and hack the same program, you might have like no luck, or you might just like not have that same kind of energy or motivation or like creativity or anything like that. And I see that all the time where I'll be like, I don't really want to hack on that. Comes up in a live hacking event, I'll spend like a month hacking on it, and I'll be like, that was a lot of fun. And then I'll like either come back to it and I'll be obsessed with it, or I'll like never want to hack on it again.
Yeah, I feel like I do the same thing even with like the post-event stuff, because I'm always like, at the end of the event, you still got a list of things that are like, these things are kind of sketchy. Like I should definitely go back and poke at these a little bit more. But then like, I've got to take a break after the live hacking events too, right? So you take a couple days and then you come back and you're like, man, this target is like awful, and you don't think that when you're at the live hacking events. So it's definitely something really cool that the platforms have going on for them there. And
it's always it's mostly not new scopes. It's just it's usually the same scopes and the most hardened programs. Just
Yeah.
that's for everyone to know.
Yeah, so on that topic, like, you hack on a lot of different programs, a lot of different scopes, all that kind of stuff. Do you take notes in any type of structured way? Like, how do you keep track of stuff? Is it all within Shockwave, or?
Yeah, so it's very hard to keep notes.
He puts it in a DM to me, is what he does.
Just add me to that. I'll help keep track.
Yeah, I just shoot every piece of information to everyone that I can. But on the last event on Epic Games, could we say the name? I think we could.
If not, I'll bleep it. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I collaborated with Space Raccoon and Alex Wilson. So we used some sort of a markdown collaborative just to shoot everything on a markdown so everyone could see. I still don't have anything on Shockwave. I'm still developing. So we could leave notes on assets, you know. Then you could, if you want to share credentials, if you want to say specific things to a HTTP server, then you could really easily see it and, you know, communicate with each other. Because it's very hard. I mean, I don't know how you collaborate. I know Justin is usually like soloing and then just getting all his leads and then, you know, trying to collaborate on site and we got very nice bugs on Austin as well, on site on a couch, just popping a crate out of nowhere.
That was so fun, dude, right in front of the fireplace. Like,
yeah. So it's very hard, to maintain all the notes, and of course it's very useful, but I'm not doing it very well at the moment.
Yeah. I feel like, I mean, Joel, I don't know what you think about this, but like, I don't know a bug bounty hunter that says anything different than what Nagli just said. Like, pretty much everyone's like, yeah, you know, I really should take notes, but actually I'm garbage at this. And so, like, I don't know. Do you take notes, Joel? Do you know anybody who takes like really meticulous notes?
Meticulous notes. I don't think I know of anybody who takes them. Personally, I don't either take like meticulous notes. I do take notes sometimes, and it depends on the structure. So like sometimes I'll just do like a Google Doc or a Google Sheet or something, and I'll just dump stuff in there if that's like a good format. Other times if I'm just hacking alone, I might just have a text file in like VS Code that I just leave on my other monitor, and I just sort of dump thoughts in like bullet points. I don't think I've really gotten any further structure than that. I know a lot of people like to use Notion and stuff. That's pretty cool. I don't really want to like get to the point where I'm getting distracted by formatting and writing my notes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
While also trying to hack, right? I want it to be something that's functional. Yeah, exactly.
This guy
like
right here. I just like write
perfect.
some crap down on this thing, and then I like throw it in the garbage the next day. I'm holding a yellow. I forget we're on a podcast medium sometime. I'm holding just a yellow like legal pad, and I just I just write like exactly what you said, Joel. Just like write random ideas down there, and then I just throw it away, which is so like you know.
I do that with sticky notes.
He's got the sticky notes right there, so it's just like I don't know. I feel like that's. I feel like maybe that's something we could do better, and it might be better when. Like I find some really good like AI note taking thing where I can just like brain dump from a voice and have it like auto generate some cool notes or something like that. But for right now, you know, I haven't seen a lot of really talented bug bounty hunters listen to this pod. So let us know on the comments on Twitter on this episode drop if you guys really do take good notes, or if you found a really good system for that, and if it's really added a lot of value, because from right now, from what I can see, it hasn't really done a lot for most other hackers. So,
yeah, something that allows you to like, I don't know, maybe there's a product somewhere, like a product idea in here somewhere, right? But it needs to be like something that's like easy to use. You can just sort of dump like any type of data in there, and like just needs to be easy to like manipulate and format. I don't know what, you know, but like something like that, at some bridge between like a physical notepad and like a Google Doc. I'm not
so
sure,
we used hackmd.io for past event. It's just a markdown. You put your markdown. It's nice, but of course I think we need something better. Gotcha. But it's just a markdown you could see when everyone is editing and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think you actually sent me something on this at some point.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
When we wrote the report for the collaboration.
This looks pretty good, man. Yeah, I think this might be something that we need to, you know, stay on top of, because as long as it's got real time and markdown. I mean, that's pretty much like the two things you need: real time and markdown. And I think it does have that. So that's pretty baller. Might have to use this more when I do collaboration. Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So that's a pretty good. We just sort of came up with a little note taking strategy. I might have to try that out. What would you say the like biggest thing that you've learned over the last 3 years, especially from the escalation point starting at like January 2021? Like what are the biggest changes that you've made between like then and now that are like large structural changes to your hunting process?
Mostly you learn a lot by trying to find bugs and not finding them. Then you know what to skip. I mean, probably at the beginning people would look at CSS files and just try to find bugs on them but there shouldn't be any bugs on CSS files. So it's mostly to grind a lot. Everything on Twitter I digest into my mind, just trying to figure out if there's anything interesting. Just hacking and seeing all the new techniques that come. And networking is very important. To speak with people, to know how to control your temper. Sometimes when a program is giving you some, not the bounty you expected, or some other stuff that you can't control, then if you can't control it, you can't control it. So that's some good stuff, to take into concept.
Yeah,
to consideration.
It's hard, man. When you get a really disappointing thing in the beginning, but I think like you said, trying and failing is some of the best ways to grow, and that's so hard to tell newbies in the space because they're trying to think about whether they've got what it takes to succeed in the space. And if you just tell them, just keep on failing and failing and failing and failing, then it's like, what are they going to do with that? But I mean, that's how it is. So
yeah.
So do you find most of your like news stuff on Twitter, or like how do you ingest like new techniques, new types of bugs, new stuff to add to your automation?
Yeah, mostly Twitter. I have a feed to my email, to my spam email about every new nuclei template because there are too many. But I just see if there's anything new with my tech stack, so I could just fire it over. Sometimes people reach out to me when they have a 0-day SaaS misconfiguration, and they tested all the programs, and now they tell me. So I tell them, okay, you can just give me the software, don't give me the POC before I find anything. And then when I find new stuff, we collaborate 50-50. So it's good. It's a good model for me, for them. It's win-win. So that's also
people just reaching out to Nagli with 0 days.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I've done that, and that's kind of like Nagli's one of my go-to guys for that. Is just toss him a identifier for the vulnerable version or whatever, and he's like, I've got like 60 of these, which ones, and so that's always been.
And then 1 year later another one pops, just
exactly. And I mean, like still to this day, and that's another thing that you do with the Grafana bug, right? I'll just call it out because everyone has already seen that bug. But I mean, Nagli still messages me. I think the last message you sent me was like 3 weeks ago of like, hey, another one popped up, here we go again, bro, and so I always appreciate that. And that actually leads me to wonder, how many of your bugs are like collaboration versus, your own stuff? Do you think, you've got a decent, like, what's that ratio of like people coming to you with bugs and versus your own stuff?
I don't know. I had one very good collaboration with Hixo from Yes We Hack. If you know him, it's a very good hunter.
Nice.
We made a lot of stuff. One time with Mochan, we were in a Paris hacking event with Yes We Hack. We just sat in a restaurant, we drank lemonade, and then he just told me about the one time he got a lot of takeovers from a vendor. And then I told him, why won't I just sign up to that vendor? And we made 64K out of that simple lunch. So that was a fun one. Sometimes I get collaboration, sometimes not, but I don't know. I mean, I had a lot of bugs with collaborations with others.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
That's awesome. Are there areas like specific topics that you feel like you're really lacking knowledge and you want to spend time like learning and expanding? Yeah,
probably mobile. You have your previous. I didn't hear your previous.
Why do we have an episode for you?
Yeah,
2 even.
Yeah, so actually I listen to the episodes in the gym all the time, but this one maybe I don't want to listen to in the gym because I want to install stuff or see some stuff, So for the next live hacking event, I might need some mobile knowledge. So that's an area that I'm looking to go further in, and that's probably it, I guess.
Nice.
Cool. Well, you can always hit me up, dude. I'm around.
Yeah. Joel is like, I always hit Joel up for mobile stuff, and he's just like the wizard of knowledge with that. And if there's the bonus. Here's the bonus thing that makes collaborating with Joel so great, is if he doesn't know, then you have just sparked him, you have nerd sniped him to go
Yeah.
figure out what it is, because
I'm gonna get insta nerd sniped.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's not the kind of guy that should be like, oh yeah, not really sure. See ya. You know,
No
like,
idea.
No.
Let me know what you find out.
Yeah, no, it's going to be like, huh, not sure. And then you get a message 5 minutes later, hey, I think it might be this. 10 minutes later, I think it's, no, maybe it's this, you know, and it just goes down that hole. So I always appreciate that. I mean, not everyone can do that, but it's great when, you know, you've got another brain like Joel's to work on it with you and kind of, you know, work to the end of problems. So I think that's one of the reasons I enjoy collabing with Joel so much and asked him to do this podcast is, you know, we really, well, to put it concisely, he's nerd snipeable. So.
Well, I mean, it's funny because we've had all these conversations about like collaboration and stuff, and so much of Bug Bounty, like really good bugs, ends
Yeah.
up being collaboration.
Yeah.
I think a part of that is just that it takes a lot of different perspectives and smart minds to attack a problem from a different perspective to come up with those different ideas, right? So, you know, you're sitting in the coffee shop in France and you're chatting with this other hacker, like, hey, how can we find this? He's like, oh yeah, you know, I did this thing, and then you have this unique idea, right? Why don't we just sign up for it?
Yeah.
And like those types of things, like it might seem obvious, but like it just takes that extra perspective and that extra like experience that you have had to, maybe you've done that in the past, right? And it might work on this target, or maybe you were just, you know, you saw a video or something and you thought, oh, maybe that'll work here. And so that amount of combined experience and that combined like context altogether is what I think like really makes the in-person collaboration. I mean, it doesn't have to be in person, but like collaboration in general just like really elevates your bugs.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to know everything. I tweeted like 2 years ago, like a phone book, you know? I have my own phone book to message anyone. You know, I have a friend Avishai, so he doesn't do much bug bounties, but he knows how to find XSS everywhere. I mean, no matter the target, no matter how, so it's very, you know, convenient. Another subdomain, another endpoint, here is XSS, you know, this kind of stuff. So it's, I mean, I have a phone book for anyone I will reach out for a certain, you know, kind of thing that stumble upon. So that's also very nice if you can't learn everything, you know, so just play to each one's strengths.
Yeah, for sure. And I think in addition to that, everyone doesn't, you know, each individual person has their own holes in knowledge as well. And those also can be helpful. This is what I tell my mentees a lot too, is like, you know, you bring a new perspective to this target that I don't have because I've got trained eyes and I've got experience, you know, looking at this thing before and think, you know, that's never been vulnerable in the past, so it's never going to be vulnerable again. And sometimes, you know, these newer people don't have that, so they start going down this path. And then, you know, a lot of times they'll show me stuff. They'll be like, hey, this feels kind of odd, right? And I'm like, yeah, I've seen that like 1,000 times, and I have never seen it do that, actually. And so, you know, it's really just to encourage any of the new people that are listening here is like, you know, you think you can always ping, you know, an experienced hacker and be like, hey, you know, is this, you know, something that I should look into or not something that I should look into? And sure, you know, a lot of times we're going to all come to the same conclusion, but there's a lot of value in going through that process and understanding, because we miss stuff, you know, Joel missed stuff, Nagli missed stuff, and you're the listener, you have a unique perspective that we don't have, and that will lead you to find bugs. And that's okay. Hold on. I got to calm myself down a little bit here because I'm getting more hype. This is how at the live hacking events.
He's going off.
I'm going off, man. Are you ready for this? Here it comes. No, but this is how at the live hacking events, like you said, Joel, they're hardened targets, and we always drop crits and destroy the target, like without fail. And so it's like, you know, time and time again, so many eyes have been over that, but each individual person brings a new perspective and, you know, can drop new crits or find new pathways where exploitation can happen. So anyway, sorry, I went full, you know, bug bounty evangelist there, but you guys, you know, you see what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you raised some great points. Like, first, like, the whole trained eyes thing, that happens to me all the time. And, like, I'll think, like, oh, there's no way that could happen. Or, like, somebody will describe me, like, you'll describe it, like, to be Justin.
Yeah.
We'll be talking, you'll be like, hey, I have this weird behavior. I'll be like, are you sure? And, like, I'll immediately, like, think, like, I'm not sure about that. And then, like, it you know, it ends up being the case. I think the most recent case was this import thing in like JavaScript.
Yeah.
There's like this import function, and it's like the whole trained eye thing is like, you know, if you just get too comfortable, like being like, oh, I've seen that before, I'm pretty sure I know how this works, like that new perspective of coming in and being like, I have no idea how this works, is like great to just expand your mind a little bit, you know, just like think more about the problem, think, is this possible, and try those different things that you wouldn't have ever tried before.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I totally agree with that, and I could vibe on that shit all day. But I'm gonna rein us back in. I'm gonna get us back to the doc. I'm gonna get us back to optimizing the time with Nagli here.
Yeah.
And then Joel and I can just rant about that shit on a different episode. But okay, so this is one that I had on there, and this is I'll explain. Okay, so let me just say the question first. What I want to ask is, how much of your time do you spend coding versus hacking, Nagli? And I think I know the answer to this, but this was my problem with the recon game, you know? And I think we talked about this actually at a live hacking event, Nagli, but my problem was that I really enjoy going up against a hard hacking problem and solving that. And when I was in the recon game, I felt like I spent 80% of my time, and maybe it's because I'm a shit programmer, but I felt like I spent 80% of my time coding and much less of my time actually exploiting. So, I mean, what does that ratio look like to you, and how do you feel about that ratio?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of times when I just RMRF'd my system by mistake, you know? But every time I came back stronger. So I had like 3 times of those iterations. But it's a lot
RMRF'd your system 3 times?
Yeah, hold on a second. That's not like... listen, never in my life have I done that, so I need a little more context.
I mean, one time, the last time, it was like 2 years ago maybe, and it's just, I ran Axiom, and I wait for the results, and then I can't log into my server. I mean, it just... password not working, and then somehow it ran RMRF. I don't know why, I don't know how. And then since then, I modified my Axiom, and I never updated it for like 1.5 years. So my Axiom is like not updated because I can't risk having RMRF on my system. But now I do. This is why I have today 20,000 commits on GitHub, because I back up my code and my recon data every 30 minutes. So that's like what I did because of that. But it's a lot of bug fixes, a lot of... it's, like you said, a lot more time to fix the codes and the trivial stuff that are not working instead of hacking. Or sometimes you add a domain which has 1 million subdomains, 10 million subdomains, and it blows up your automation. So there's a lot of edge cases that you need to take care of when you want to have the one that you don't need to worry. I mean, I can fly for a week now and nothing will happen. So it takes a lot of time to reach that level.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I mean, obviously... we're all hackers, but do you consider yourself, I mean, from a day-to-day basis, do you think you spend more time coding than hacking?
No, I mean, most of my stuff already coded. I mean, all the Python scripts, all the Bash scripts, all the security mindset. Every time I see new feature that can be automated, I will code it, but mostly I'm researching today, you know, just seeing new stuff that pop up, hacking. I mean, I don't have much more to contribute in the coding part. I mean, I don't know how to code Django for my system backend and front. I wish I knew, but like it's hard. Even with ChatGPT, it can help you a lot, but it can't help you with the whole architecture, you know, of everything. But yeah, I mean, ChatGPT literally converted all my Bash script to Python, for example. I mean, just copy, paste, copy. I mean, you need some iterations, but it's very good use case if you want to transform to another language. It's not good for complex architecture, back and front servers, but for our scripts, it's very easy to use.
Wow.
So do you have plans to integrate AI like into your product at all, or what's the plan?
Yeah, so I have a simple integration when you add a report. So I will take your title, the severity, and the endpoint. Then I could guess what you want to report with references, with AI. So it's like if you report a gray log4j, you will see also the AI will know the references for the patch and stuff like that. So that's like a cool feature. Another cool feature, I mean, auto triage. It's something I plan. If my clients will make a VDP page or BBP on their website and they will submit a bug, then I will give it a keyword, let's say of SSL or mail config, all those kind of stuff that you don't want to see. You could just very easily have an AI that detects it. So for those kind of stuff, auto triage, I think it's very good. For literally finding new bugs, I don't have any use cases yet with automation. For JavaScript files, it's probably very good to analyze JavaScript files.
Yeah.
But I don't see it can't make my stuff faster for now. So in that front, mostly JavaScript files, I think can be very good to analyze with it.
Yeah, JavaScript files would definitely... Seeing someone spin something up that, like, The problem is, they're so long, and so
Yeah, you need to make a lot of.
Yeah, and you can't just dump all of that into ChatGPT so easily. And even when you do, you're definitely going to hit the ChatGPT token memory limit. Where it doesn't remember the stuff you put in from the beginning. So it's not going to be as simple as like just using the API, dumping all the pieces in, and saying, "Hey, tell me about what I just dumped in there." I think it's got to be a little bit more complex. But when it is, that is going to be helpful. That is going to be really helpful.
Yeah.
Because nobody likes reading minified JavaScript. It makes our eyes bleed. We know. So, yeah, that would definitely be cool.
Cool. So, Nagli, you travel a lot, right? Like, you're always going to live hack events. I always see you on planes and all that kind of stuff, right? Is that pretty accurate?
I traveled like to 10 live hacking events last year. I think it started with Dubai, Paris, Denver, Austin, Vegas, Singapore, Barcelona, Copenhagen, and then Florida this year. So it was like 10, I think.
Dang,
maybe
that's crazy.
I think 10.
That's a lot of planes. Yeah, I've done that. I've done 10 in a year as well, and that is a grind. That is a grind for sure. When you're on planes, are you hacking? Are you coding? Are you bug fixing? Are you sleeping? Podcasting? What do you do on planes?
Yeah, I buy the Wi-Fi. Most of the flights to the US is like 15 hours. So I try to code a little bit, but usually I will just, watch some Netflix, and if I buy myself business, maybe I'll try to sleep. But it's hard to to commit in plane to code or to do some stuff. But it's pretty hard to do it on long flights.
Got it. So would you say a lot of your money goes to business class upgrades?
That's where that million is going so fast. He's flying business class across the ocean.
Yeah, not much. Mostly it's premium economy. Sometimes I allow myself to fly, in the Emirates. I had to experience it once. And why not? I don't spend my money anywhere, so I should spend it on something.
Cool. Yeah, no, that was actually one of our questions. Was like, where's all the money go? Because like $1 billion hacker, balling out of control, right? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So I'm very conservative. I could say all my money now is mostly on money market fund. It's like 5% a year, very solid. I can cash it out whenever I want. I didn't buy any real estate or any major stuff. It's mostly paying for my expenses when I'm traveling, eating in restaurants, and for the flights and hotels. And maybe in the future, I'll buy some cool stuff.
Saving up for the private jet.
We have a different idea of conservative, because Nagli's like flying, and he says most of the time it's premium economy. I wouldn't go down to super basic economy like those.
Hey, listen. When you gotta spend 15 hours on a plane, you gotta draw the line somewhere, okay?
Yeah, it's true. No, I don't know, man. I don't know. They're just not that uncomfortable for me. Maybe it's because I'm like perfectly the average, height, dimension, sort of guy, and so everything was designed for me, which is really nice. But but like I don't know. I sit in this seat, and then I open my laptop and I do some stuff, and then I mean even on the flights to Japan, it's not that bad. So I don't know. I never invest in the business class. I mean, do you, Joel? I feel like you're the same sort of dimensions.
I definitely do sometimes. Like, it depends. I think for me, the line is like anything over 8 or 9 hours, I'll probably upgrade to at least premium economy.
Gotcha.
And depending on the price of the upgrade, I might go to business.
Yeah.
Just because like, that's like a full day of just like sitting in a cramped chair, like next to a bunch of people, just like,
Ian Carroll has a formula. He told me, Ian Carroll, he flies first class all the time. So he told me $100 for an hour. It's what you should pay if you want to fly business. maximum for the upgrade. So it has like very specific formulas. If you want to calculate if it's worth it or not.
It's kind of interesting though. Like when you say it like that, even I don't really like. You're paying $100 an hour to be transported across the world.
In slightly more comfort.
Yeah. It's actually not that. That's pretty good. I don't know. So
it depends on perspective, right? Like, I think the most expensive business upgrade I ever did was to Singapore, and that was like a couple
I did
thousand.
It as well.
Yeah, but it's like for me from SF, even like from West Coast, it's like
Yeah.
19-hour
hours.
flight there. Yeah, it's like 19 hours. Like, what do you do in a tube for 19 hours? Like, I want to recline. That's what I want to do. Like, I don't know.
Now that makes sense. I think I don't know. Maybe we'll see someday. Especially
We're gonna convince Justin's flying first from now on.
Let me just go upgrade check my flight upgrades really quick. Clickety clackety. But also, hey, United's got a bug bounty program, and I will say, just to be fair, because this is how we do it here, I haven't had the best experience with the United bug bounty program, but the bounties are great. If you get the bounties are really good. As far as like how far those points go, and especially if you're you know how to get. Now I'm really showing my conservative side. If you know how to get the super economy saver deals, then you can get some really good redemption rates for those points. So they do tax you on them, which is a little bit of a bummer if you're a U.S. citizen. But this is another hack. You heard it here, and it's not tax advice. You can just write them off as well if you use them for business. So, that's kind of the way I've been dealing with it. And who knows, maybe I should splurge a little bit more and go business sometime. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. Well, while we're talking about flights, Andy and Carol, you mentioned that he has like a calculator and stuff. He also has that site seats.aero.
What?
And that's like all around points. Yeah. He has this website called seats.aero, and it looks for basically like last minute. Like airlines like to sell off their empty seats at like basically mile only rates for like it'll be like 40,000 miles plus $100 or $10 or something, and instead of like a full size first class ticket. And if you are looking for a flight and you have the points for it, you can usually snag those up like pretty last minute, like for pretty cheap. And so he has a whole like website to track all that stuff.
No
so
way.
if you're hacking on United and you have a lot of United points and you're looking for a good way to spend them, Seats.aero is probably a good way to find some of those flights.
This is his site?
Yeah.
Yep.
No way, dude. Way to go. This is awesome. Seats.aero, so SEATS.AERO. Seats.aero.
Seats.aero. Yep.
Huh.
Pretty dope. Yeah, Ian flies a lot. He's a cool dude. We should try and have him on here sometime, because that man is he's doing a million things at the same time. It's
Great
so
hacker.
cool.
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't no idea that he could program as well. This website though very much gives me what's that guy's name? Was it like links.io or something like that? Links.io. Yeah, hold on. I don't know if we're getting off the hacking topic here, but there's this guy links.io that does AI. Let me see if I can find it. I can't find it right now, but he does like AI. He does Nomad List. That's the name of the
Nomad
company.
List.
And
Levels.io, his name on Twitter.
What is it?
Levels.io.
Levels.
His name
That's
on
what
Twitter.
it was. Yeah, thank you. And if you look at all of his sites, he talks about how like he just really like quickly spins stuff up and like
He has a
gets stuff
PHP
rolling.
endpoint that shows in like his MRR and those stuff.
Yeah, and that's so cool. Like if I was gonna be a creator, I would definitely go down this route. And also, he talks about how he just iterates with he just does jQuery and Bootstrap and PHP on the back end,
PHP.
and he just pushes out these amazing sites. So this Seats.aero really gives me that sort of indie levels.io
Indie
vibe.
hacking.
Yeah.
It's another one of those like experienced like trained eyes versus amateur eyes thing. Like if your eyes get too trained, you start to like if you say I went to write one of these, I would absolutely spend way too much time trying to make it perfect
Same.
and like nice for the user and whatever instead of just keeping it simple and just iterating on it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we are approaching the hour mark here. Let me see what else I got on the list. If I don't have too much else, then we might have to go into those vulnerabilities that we were talking about. Okay, actually, let me ask this. So, you said the tech stack is largely Bash. So I'm just going to check this fact. So Bash, you've got you're wrapping the actual other tools, right? And then you said you have Django for that's for Shockwave, but you weren't using that at all before. It was just
Yeah, I'm
all
still not
via
using
bash.
it for my my automation for bug bounty. It's just Python, Bash, Axiom, DigitalOcean, Linode,
in
cron
like
jobs,
text
stuff like that.
files.
Yeah, text. Oh, of course, text files.
Yeah, like where do you store all the data?
Yeah,
Is
you
it-
don't
where's
need
the
a
database, bro.
I have folders. I have folder recon dash assets dash root domain dash.
So you're telling me I could be a millionaire with TXT files and folders?
Oh
Holy
my
shit.
gosh.
I mean, it's only input output. I mean, where is the? I mean, why do you need a database to read and write?
I don't know,
assets?
man. I just feel like, even when I was using, back in the day, I used Mongo because it was just really handy. But, like, I was kicking myself for not utilizing, like, a real SQL database, like MySQL or something like that with, all these different relational queries you can do.
Trained eyes.
Yeah.
Trained eyes.
And, boom, he just goes straight for the bash and TXT files. And a lot of
And
other...
Grep is a good tool.
Yeah, Grep. He says, oh, yeah, for the database?
Is it,
Grep.
yeah, there's this, I don't know if you ever heard of this. It's pretty unique. It's called Grep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's good. All right, cool. Well, you know what? We can't get anything out of them from the stack because there's nothing in the stack. It's just
Yeah,
bash
It's
and
just
text
scripts.
files.
It's like, it can't get more simple than this. He's like telling us how it all works. He's like,
Yeah.
what do you want from
He's
me?
like, actually, just breathe bash. I'm fluent in bash. Just speaks bash to the computer and it understands. Okay, so let's talk about the reports a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and let's see. So yeah, why don't you start off with the web cache deception one, Nagli? So anyway, let me just explain this to the audience real quick. So when the guests come on, we want to have them talk about reports rather than our reports that we are quickly burning through on the podcast here. So we're going to have Nagli talk about a web cache deception vuln that he found on ChatGPT, which totally blew up on Twitter, and then also a SSRF from a live hacking event that we've done recently that we will not share the name of the target for, Nagli.
Again.
Otherwise, I will have to bleep it. But yeah, so hit us with the web cache deception one, man.
Yeah, so lately, we are in a kind of Discord with Sam Carey and Well, and just, looking
Yeah.
for random targets once every few days to hack. So it was ChatGPT Day. They just introduced the plugins, and it was very exciting. So I just said, why not look at it for a little bit with Burp? And then I found cache deception sometimes on live hacking events. In Denver, I found it, and I think on another one. But I never tried the bypasses, So I saw some stuff, how it powers, how it authenticates you with the ChatGPT and stuff like that. And then I saw this API endpoint that just gives you your JWT and all your authenticated data. And I thought, well, let's see if it caches. I read some write-ups. I know that if you can add static files and the endpoint still, functions the same, and you could still get a hit, so you have a bug here. So I just tried test.css, and I got a hit from the cache server. It means there's something here. So it was pretty straightforward. Just shoot him an email. In 4 minutes, he answered to me. I wish they had a bug bounty program. It's probably
4
like 10
minutes?
Yeah, 4 minutes.
Oh my
It's,
gosh, dude! If we could get that sort of response in like actual bug bounty programs, that'd be
Yeah.
crazy. And then, let alone you just shot this guy an email.
Yeah, I know that guy was managing one of the biggest programs on Background. The guy who manages OpenAI VDP now.
Really? Okay.
I bet they will have a bug bounty program soon, so probably I lost like 10 to 25,000 if it was a P1. But the exposure and the publicity was very good for it, and it was a very fun bug. To find a bug on the early days of AI and those kind of systems is very cool, and there is a lot of web bugs to find on those stuff for sure.
Yeah, wow, dude. This tweet really blew up, so you did get some good exposure there. For those of you that are at a computer listening to this, if you go to the description, we'll link the tweet that we're talking about, or you can just look up Nagli on Twitter, but which you should be doing anyway to follow him at Nagli.
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 Twice. Dude, you were actually made me really wonder. So you mentioned like most of the time you see something, you don't try and bypass it. Does your whole automation system and all the alerts, do you have it alert you for like non-findings, if that makes sense? Like stuff that is weird but needs probably a little bit of extra like human effort to fully exploit, or do you just sort of just cut your losses with that stuff? And
Yeah, I have some kind of automation that alerts me for new interesting domain that just became publicly accessible and stuff like that. So it's not a finding, but with a quick look, I could probably see if there is anything here to explore or not. I wish I could, make something with FAF and directory brute force, like most common 10,000 words, but it's very much, it's hard asset, but you could find some good stuff with it if you keep monitoring your stuff over and over.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Cool.
So I'm looking at this tweet, and I don't know, what is it, like the fifth tweet down or whatever. You talk about receiving the CF-cache-status response set to dynamic, right? So normally when you see dynamic, that's like a bummer, right? Because it knows that you're not, that this is changing content. But it's still an interesting thing that indicates you that there is some caching mechanism in place, right? So then, from there you can sort of, for any of you that aren't super familiar with web cache deception, you should absolutely go find this tweet, because he does a brilliant job of outlining how it actually works, and you even show the default cached file extensions from Cloudflare in there, which I did not have a list of before. So that's really awesome, and it might even be cool to even build some automation that tries all of these endpoints or tries all of these extensions and on every single one, because maybe they fixed like the one for PNG and JPG or even WAF, but like some of this stuff like what is this .zst? I've never even heard of that.
Some weird extensions over there.
Yeah.
Have you already turned this into an automation, or is this just sort of like a one-off?
Yeah, it's hard because everything that relates to endpoint, it's very hard. I didn't figure it out. I know some people did, but using Go and having, a small amount of output, eventually, it's super hard problem. To find APIs, authenticate and stuff like that. So I didn't really do any automation with it.
Nice.
Gotcha.
Well, this is a really impactful one. So then after you put, test.css at the end, it cached the response. And then from an unauthenticated perspective, anybody could come hit /test.css and we would find your auth access token, right?
Yeah, I tried it with Joel. We went to his VPN and just, he went to my link, then I got his JWT, and now I see all these interactions,
So what you're saying is Joel has your access token to ChatGPT.
No.
Not the other way.
He has mine.
Oh, no. Joel, you fool. You
I know. I'm doomed. He's going to steal my bugs.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's great. Okay, cool. So let's hit that SSRF then. So this was a really fun bug. I'll intro it for you, Nagli. This was a bug that Nagli and I and a couple other people found at a live hacking event that we went to recently. And I think it's just a really good example of collaboration taking things a little bit further, and also just like a pretty, when you think about SSRF as a vuln type, you think about hitting internal assets and stuff like that. But there are some other things that you should be keeping your eye out for, which we'll learn about in just a sec. So Nagli, hit us with the details on that one.
Yes, it was the final day of the on-site event, so we were hacking for like 2 weeks for this very, very small web app. And I just, someone taught me, Jonathan Bowman, if you know him, he's a doctor and he's a hacker as well. So he just taught me how to use Burp Active Scanner. I never used it before because it never finishes. So I just said, why not just fire it over my recon data? And it found the most weird SSRF that no one could ever found, because for every endpoint that I crawled, it just tried to end /HTTP and, the Burp collab, the URL, and you would never try it on the endpoint that it actually found it. So when I opened my computer at night, just, we were hacking late night in your room, and then I just saw, what is this weird external DNS interaction alert? And then we saw we actually had SSRF on the instance. And when I looked at my collaborator, so we saw there is a JWT. So it was only external, it was like, you could say blind SSRF, but when you point to your server, it included a JWT for super admin, and then, we try to see how far can we take this vulnerability to. So no one would ever find it if you weren't just fuzzing some weird endpoints in pass, and it won the most critical bug in the event also.
Yeah, man, that was such a fun one, because it literally we were like, okay, and when you see where it injects the payload, it literally injects, normally when you've got an SSRF, it's like, okay, clearly a URL, it goes here, or like a host name goes here, and then we can manipulate that. This was just like
6 directories deep, something really
and it was
unexpected.
Just like slap it at the end of the URL with HTTPS included and everything, and it would just hit that. So that was kind of nuts, actually. I still don't understand fully how that happened on the back end, but having that bearer leak was really huge. And I've seen this at a couple different live hacking events as well. So whenever you get a callback on your Burp collaborator, don't just freak out and start thinking about, hey, what sort of internal stuff can I hit? Double click into the request, read it thoroughly, look at the user agent, look at the authorization, look at any other headers that are going along there that might indicate to you what kind of softwares are being used or what kind of additional information is being leaked. And you might end up with best bug of the event, like Nagli here. So, oh wait, hold on.
Yeah.
This is another opportunity for me to do. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's super interesting, the Burp active scan stuff, because that's one of those features I also never touch. There's a lot of features in Burp that I just they either didn't work for me one time and I just stopped using them, or I don't fully understand the best way to use them and I just skip over them, and
Yeah.
now I'm gonna go learn how to use that.
Yeah, so give us the rundown. I mean, what did he teach you there, Nagli?
I mean, I think it broke for me again because it doesn't finish for me today as well. But he actually just showed me that you can untick some stuff, and then it won't run forever,
So
Because
you can
it checks
untick
for-
the scans,
Yeah.
all right, should I download this whole JavaScript file and analyze it for 6 hours button?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want it to look for all the stuff, the zipping, DOM XSS, some
Yeah.
stuff. You want to focus on the stuff that it might help you, with the most critical and high stuff, and you want it to finish. This is the most important part.
Yeah, so creating your own custom scan profiles, that's a pro tip right there. So you get more value out of Burp, because I think it's a little bit designed for taking a long time and someone who's just really the red team person for their company or whatever, and is just going to let this scan run for forever.
a week. Yeah.
And as a bug bounty hunter, we've got a little bit of a different agenda there. So creating your own scan profiles, that's a good takeaway there. All right, we are just over the hour mark. Since we finished the reports, I think that's all I got. Joel, you got anything you want to pick Nagli's brain about?
Dude, that was it. I mean, this was awesome.
Yeah.
Just getting to hear your insights about how you approach things and how you set things up and how your whole recon works and all that kind of stuff. And it's really exciting to see you building it into a product too.
Yeah, for sure. Nagli, you got anything you want to share here at the end? Anything you want to promote?
No, I will promote the podcast. If you're listening to this podcast, you should listen to the podcast.
Nice.
And
Wow.
yeah, it's not very good to generate leads from the ones who are already listening. But yeah, it was great speaking with you. Yeah.
What a guy. She's using his 15 seconds here at the end to promote the podcast. I will say though, we've from time to time we'll come on here and we'll be like, hey, please, subscribe on. What the heck? Sorry, something just fell off my wall. Sometimes we'll say, subscribe on YouTube or whatever. But one of the biggest ways that podcasts grow, and we also talk about the hacker chat, so it's really relevant, is word of mouth. So drop if you do us a solid. Give Nagli some pay for his trip on here and share the podcast in your hacker chats or your discords or whatever, or even tell a friend in person. And because Nagli was so kind to shout out the pod instead of shouting himself out, I will say definitely keep an eye on Shockwave, his startup that he's doing. You can find it. We'll link it in the description of the podcast as well. And I think that's about it. That's the pod. Yeah.
That's fun.
All right. Sweet. Thanks for listening, everybody. Peace.
Thank you very much.
Actually.